Hello, you're listening to the Eric McKenna Project.
I went to Cornell. I graduated from that school. I grew up in this town. Now I'm back.
What's the mascot for the Coriopolis?
The Cornell Raiders.
The Raiders.
Yeah, it used to be the Blue Devils when I was a kid. It's the Coriopolis Blue Devils.
Yeah.
And then Coriopolis and Neville Island merged in 75, or maybe a little bit older than that, but became the Raider. It's the Pirate Raider.
Yeah.
The Oakland Raiders, same kind of shit.
Yeah.
My buddy was actually the mascot when I was in school. He was the Raider. He was the perfect personality for that Wade, if you're out there. Funniest fucking guy.
I feel like that would be one of the funnest jobs to be able
mascot?
to do. Yeah. If I didn't play football, I would have probably tried to get into that for sure.
This guy enjoyed it, and he was good.
Yeah.
He was good. He had the perfect personality for that.
You gotta have that. You gotta have that.
He was nuts.
That charisma. I was gonna talk to Iceberg from the Penguins, but he actually has like a.
Does he talk?
Well, the guy who runs it, I got in contact with him through some mutual friends, and he was like, "Dude, I would do it, but the Penguins don't want any sort of like." They want it to be like
breaking character.
Yeah, no breaking character. They want it to be like, anonymous completely.
Yeah.
My buddy told me a cool story in high school at Virginia Tech. I think this might be completely, false, but he said that the mascot, no one really knows who it is, but on graduation day, the person wears the feet with their graduation gown.
That's pretty cool.
And then they pass the torch to whoever else it is, like real covertly. And I was like, that's pretty sick.
What was their mascot?
Georgia Tech. I don't know. It was like
a running wreck from Georgia Tech.
It was like a bird or some shit. I'm the least knowledgeable about mascots and sports and schools.
But you want to be a mascot, huh?
I would have, yeah. I'm just there for the energy. I'm a big energy guy.
You are. That's what I like about you.
I could read some energy, and there's good energy in this room tonight.
Thank you, man. And thanks for doing the show. There's no hard openings here. We just go and shit.
Yeah, I know that deal.
I had the honor of being on your show. I think it was like 8-9 months ago now. I think we're up to something like that.
I honestly can't remember. Do you find you're doing so much? You do so many episodes. I feel like I forget a lot of it.
I do. So how? Do you have a ritual that you use to review your shows?
What do you mean?
Like, okay, I have this ritual. So I do a lot of walking. So tonight I'll do my 90-minute walk before I go to bed, and I will probably take the MP3 of the raw, unedited MP3, and just download it to Google Drive and listen to it.
Yeah.
And that's how I think it helps me when I go to edit and splice the video together.
Yeah.
So that, and then I'll go back and revisit it maybe next week again. So I'll revisit my shows a couple times before I let them go off into the sunset.
Yeah.
Do you do any of that?
I used to be more conscious of that, but now, I don't really, sometimes I'm recording like a day ahead of time and then I drop it the next day.
Yeah.
I'm someone who I do myself a disservice. I don't like to date any episodes, so I try to record them.
We don't do that either.
As most recent as I can, just because I feel like things lose their shine. So
you want it to be evergreen, right?
I want it to be evergreen.
Yeah,
so I don't want to talk about things that are happening that weekend because if someone is new to the show 2 months later and is listening to shit, it's just I never really liked that, but I don't really have like a ritual. I kind of just record. I know if there's things that I need to edit out. I know if the conversation flows well.
Yeah.
And, if it's shit that I need to edit, I'll listen a little bit more. I'll comb through it a little bit more meticulously. But sometimes I just send it. If it's a good conversation and there's no like downtime or anything like that, I want that. I want that raw type of feel.
Well, I was very certain when I left your place that night and drove home. And you kind of rehash and everything. And I'm not really that good on the guest side.
Yeah, this is going to be an event for me. You know what I mean?
That's what makes it great. Plus, I had to pay you back, you mother effer.
Yeah, for sure.
If you put me through that, I'm going to put you through
It's
that.
definitely different. It's definitely a different dynamic.
Oh, yeah, we haven't started yet.
Yeah.
But anyways, I was driving home that night thinking to myself, wow, I said, that was cool because I work so hard to have a fluid conversation. And I think I figured it out, the method to do that, knock on wood. And I had just been interviewed by someone who also figured it out. And I think you probably, like myself, figured it out through flipping doing it.
100%.
Yeah.
Experience.
And that's cool.
Yeah.
Maybe hard to articulate to those who don't do it, but it's like, it's almost, I was talking to, who was I on? Another podcast had me on, and I was saying it's almost like we're all like kind of kindred spirits here, because there's just something a little odd about all of us doing this.
For sure. It's like we made it through that obstacle course of how to rehash this archaic type of conversation. It's like people were so we were talking about it before we started recording. It's like people want to text rather than have a phone call. People want to just send a fucking emoji before. They don't even want to put a word on there. They're just sending emojis and shit. I have always been someone, I am a phone call before a text. I want to just talk because the things that you can convey with your voice is so much more than you have with just like a limitation of characters.
You're an old soul because your generation, speaking strictly from an age standpoint, is much more in tune with a texting, messaging, email, video message kind of world than my generation is, who is now adapting to everything. But we had that memory of before 96, and I use 96 as the date. It isn't a hard date. It is for conversational purposes. It's pre-96, post-96.
Yeah. When
the internet hit and everything started to really become electronically tainting our conversation.
Yeah.
From that point, I think. And we can remember when it really was, we had cell phones. They were big and clunky and really expensive, and not everybody had them. But for the most part, you had to either plan to meet somebody somewhere, or you picked up the phone and called them, or you listened to a voicemail maybe.
It's so weird to think about that now. It's because, if you think about how people make, I remember a period of time, I don't know if you were in this, I might have been in the sweet spot compared to you. I'd imagine you have never did AOL Instant Messenger, AIM and shit like that.
I remember it. But I didn't want to. Yes, I remember it being there.
Yeah,
but I pushed back against it.
Well, you were also you were a little bit older. You had more shit to do. It's like as a teenager, you're stuck in a house after school. That's how you're communicating because people don't have a cell phone.
Got it.
And it's such a weird thing to leave up an away message. So if you're going out with your friends or something like that, you're like, oh, I'm going to Brian's house tonight. Staying over Brian's, and it's like. It's such a weird dynamic to think about now because we're all so attached to our fucking phones. If you want to talk to anyone, you just throw them a text. You could FaceTime anyone in the world. I mean, it's good and it's bad. You know what I mean? Everything's good in moderation, but, too much water will kill you. A little bit of water will do you good. Everything's good in moderation.
Yeah, no, I get the premise of that. I just... I think we might have chatted about it before. It's like I'm in a business that just requires an incredible amount of communication with a big diverse group of people every day.
Yeah.
And you can unfortunately create expectations from people, or people will have expectations of you that you're available all the time.
Yeah. On call.
It's hard to pull back from that.
It is hard to pull back from that. It's like that's when I feel you have to make a conscious effort as a person, to separate that, We got to have I think it's all some mental health shit. I used to be addicted to my phone. I used to be on it all the time. Always, I would panic if it was dead or anything like that. But, in my me growing up a little bit more, I constantly just I just want to put it down and not look at it, because I could feel you see them memes of a human's face getting sucked into the phone, and that's really what it is.
I think so.
Some days I'll scroll an hour just watching skateboard videos or something like that, or
We
cooking
go down
videos.
these rabbit holes
For sure.
You know, that's a thing, and it's and sometimes it's really enjoyable. And you know what's crazy too is you know, I think that we had the capacity to go down the rabbit hole when the web was young, and the web browser Chrome was an amazing thing. I mean, there was web crawler and there was Google, all those things beforehand, but when the Chrome browser, Google started to incorporate all these other aspects of life in the web in this browser. And I think we started to feel it then. Even before texting proliferated, even before social media got really big, Google was figuring out ways to add so much more instantly in front of you on your web browser. And I think that's where the web browser, I think, started our attachment to devices. And
the instantness of everything. You know, nowadays we're so spoiled with like getting a package from Amazon in 2 days, and it's like we're pissed if it takes 3. And it's like back in the day, post was only once a month. Some shit. A guy comes by on a horse and grabs a letter. You know what I mean? Straight up like Kevin Costner. And you're just like, wow, where are we at today? Where we're, you know, complaining about this shit.
When I was a kid, when you would order something, you'd beg your parents to like write the check for it, right? Because we didn't have any money.
Yeah,
you're a kid, but you were used to seeing the following text in the ad.
Yeah.
There's a certain amount of money for shipping and handling.
Yeah.
And underneath it, it would always say 4 to 6 weeks, or sometimes 6 to 10 weeks. Allow 6 to 10 weeks for shipping. That was just expected.
Yeah, expected.
Nobody would tolerate anything close to that.
Never.
Right now.
Well, I think that I think one of, you know, there's so many like negatives with the COVID shit, obviously.
Right.
You know, I mean, it's tragedy, but like one of the silver linings I feel is that, you know, it's kind of leveling everything. You know, it's kind of leveling the playing fields in some regard with some aspects of life. One of them being like, you know, the instantaneous not validation, but the just having everything instantly. It's like we had a year and a half where everything was kind of like, you know, kind of slowed down.
Right.
And everyone had to slow down at the same time.
Right.
It wasn't like one grouping of people didn't get, you know, the same type of thing as the other. It's like everyone slowed down. I ordered a couch. 8 months it took to get here. All right, it was delivered yesterday. They delivered it to me. It was soaking wet. I had to go through a whole thing after 8 months. You know what I mean?
That's brutal.
That would never be back then.
Right.
But it's like we all have this understanding now that because this insane thing happened to the world, everything's kind of slowed down. So coming full circle, it's like
not enough.
It's definitely not enough, but it's more than it was.
Agreed. All your white goods, like all of your like stoves and refrigerators and air conditioners and freezers and all that stuff was completely delayed.
Yeah. And it's like
wood at the lumber
That's
yard.
what I mean. And like we were so you know, maybe spoiled that we took it all for granted because it's just right there. You know, you can go to the store, get whatever the hell you want.
I remember being a kid, and there was department stores like Murphy's Marts, which became Ames.
I remember Ames.
And then they had Kmart's, and in this part of the country, Walmart had not hit yet. But I remember the first Walmart, I want to say 95 or so. Kind of like, believe it or not, it may have been around the same time the web broke, coincidentally. But I remember walking into a Walmart going, holy shit. What don't they have here?
For sure.
And now I'll think about, like, if there's anything you want, you can probably have it at your doorstep within 2 days. You may be able to have it in 1 day, and you may be able to actually go grab it that day.
Yeah.
No matter what you want.
It's crazy.
That's insane.
I think we got onto this whole tangent about saying, like you said, is that good or bad?
Yeah,
you know what I mean? Bad? And I feel like it's a little bit of both because, you know, for me, you know, I could go there and, you know, I could spend days online just looking at dumbass shit that's never amounted to nothing. But it's like I also, you know, like to go on there and just learn shit. I try to just like add more tools to my toolbox. Like I just made my own hot sauce the other day.
Right on.
Just going online. You know what I mean? I learned how to bake bread online, and it's like if you utilize that tool It could be a fantastic tool.
I don't think a lot of people use the web in ways to enhance their life. I think it uses entertainment or diversions or, I won't say time wasting, because what's wasteful to some person might be entertaining to another.
Exactly.
I can't make that moral judgment, but
exactly.
I can't say that I don't think the bulk of people are expanding their minds.
I agree with that. I could agree with that. But that's why we have to keep ourselves accountable, and we have to, I'm not really worried about it. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Other people that are doing shit, it's like, I used to care a lot more about what other people were involved with, what other people were doing. It's like whenever I'm like 20, 21, it's like I always observed, and I always like let it really like, set in with me.
Charged up.
Yeah, it would get me charged up, because I'm like, oh, am I not doing things? Am I not keeping up with this person? Am I not doing it that way?
That's youth.
It's youth, and the only way that you're going to learn is through time. And now I'm 31. I'm still young. I would consider myself young.
Certainly, compared to me, you are.
But it's like, I have a whole completely different outlook of my life than I did, even 6-7 years ago. And every day it just like, I kind of reevaluate the way that I'm thinking about things. And
you have to do that if you want to see progress, because I can guarantee there's 31s running around right now who are thinking and viewing life and reacting to life the same way they did at 22.
For sure. There's definitely people that are like that. You have to
take it upon yourself to progress in life. And I'm not always talking about career. I'm talking about mind expansion.
Yeah.
The openness of new experiences, new ideas, new philosophies.
Yeah.
Just to give them credence. Not that you buy into everything you hear, but at least being open enough to listen to what there might be some value there.
100%.
A year ago or 5 years ago, I'm like, fuck you, I ain't listening to that.
Exactly. That's exactly it. Have you always been someone who's been inquisitive and open?
Yes, but in my earlier life, I was too judgmental. I was so arrogant. I believed that I knew. I have a personal philosophy that has evolved over time, certainly. And even that, knowing that it needs to evolve over time, is personal evolution.
Yeah.
But I was always very principled. A lot of fundamental beliefs that I had, strong beliefs. They weren't always rooted in logic, and I sometimes would die on that hill with that belief, even though I knew it was wrong.
Yeah.
And so that was my fallacy. It wasn't that I didn't care. Sometimes I cared about the wrong things, and I just didn't like being wrong. So I wasn't humble enough.
Yeah.
And so, but in terms of being a person who was passive or impassive, I was very engaged, very inquisitive. My mind's very fertile. I think yours is as well. But I didn't go about it with a level of humility, and that's where I made a change in my life the last 7-8 years.
Yeah. I like the way that you described your mind being fertile. I've never really heard of it like that, and that makes a lot of sense, but I would agree with that.
I want to plant those seeds, but again, your mind might be fertile, but if you're too arrogant to let things in, you're robbing yourself. You could be a naturally inquisitive person. I know a lot of people that are probably had the capacity to be wonderful learners and just think what they could do with that knowledge.
Yeah.
But they can't get past that arrogance that either they're right or that's nonsense. I don't even bother with it. They're not open enough to be touched by experiences that could maybe help them.
I agree with that.
And that's where, but again, I didn't come by this honestly. I had to figure this out, and I went through a lot of pain, and I would love to have those years back when I wasn't thinking, I think, so rationally and so pragmatically. But, at least I got there eventually.
Yeah, you got there eventually.
Yeah, so I can hang my hat on that, but it's a better way to live.
Yeah.
I can tell anyone, from a philosophy standpoint, not labeling and branding people and trying to look at, it's kind of corny because you say, well, you try to find the good in everybody, but you really kind of do. I mean, you can see a guy in first glance, you're like, that guy's an asshole.
Yeah.
But there's got to be something more to that person than what you're initially seeing.
100%.
You would hope.
Yeah.
And I'm the kind of person crazy enough to try to figure out what that is.
I think that I had opportunities whenever I was younger to have those instances that made me aware of those situations where, like, you know, even though someone's an asshole on the outside doesn't mean they're really an asshole, you know, complete all the way through. My dad coached baseball, you know, for 2 decades, so there was always older guys that were involved in the baseball organizations.
Okay.
And there was this guy named Kusich, and he was, you know, old as hell whenever I was like, you know, 8 or 9 years old.
Right.
And he was just this like very like quirky, bizarre grump that was always around. He loved my father though, but he was, you know, I was a kid, so like you know, he was still like kind of an asshole to me, but I got to experience him for, you know, 6-7 years of my life.
Right. And
over them years, I realized, like, you know, that hard shell that he had, and I realized like how to maneuver through that armor that he had on, and he was just like such a cool dude. But it's like, you know, even though people are assholes, it's like I like to try to figure those people out, because it's more of an accomplishment to be able to like break through to that type of person.
Fun too.
Yeah, it's super fun.
Yeah,
it's super fun. It's not even just an accomplishment, but it's fun to be able to navigate that and figure out why that person is the way that they are.
And I robbed myself of all that fun when I was younger, because I would just label that person a jackass, and I would probably just stay away from them. I was pretty good at, like, you know, just like banishing people from my life. And
yeah.
That wasn't wise. And some of the friends, the true friends that I have now, and I could probably count them on 2 hands of these people that I wouldn't have looked at 20 years ago, because I had labeled them in my brain as just the people I don't want to be associated with. And now, because I gave them a chance in my own sphere to show me who they really are and find intrinsic value there and build camaraderie and offer to them what I can offer, mutually beneficial. But man, if I could have had that humility then, and I guess if anyone's listening to this just looking for any nugget to take out of this initial part of the conversation, it would be listen from a person, you know, middle-aged person who recognized that was not full of humility when they were younger, and all the missed opportunities, the human experience missed opportunities. You know, I look back on that like, wow, I wasted that time.
Yeah.
You know,
I mean, do you think that also was, you know, I guess you had opportunities to have those exchanges with people and learn with people, but it's like, you know, I feel like that me doing the podcast for as long as I've been doing it now, it also like kind of presses that even further into it all, because 100%. It's like all these people that I talk to of all different walks of life. You know, I've had one of the most quiet people ever, his name was Dan Dobies. He was a caretaker at a cemetery. I just wanted to, you know, one day I was driving home, I was like, I want to talk to someone who digs the graves. You know what I mean? After I talked to the funeral director, I was like, I want to talk to someone who digs the graves, because, you know, I want to know how that's done. So I found this dude, went on Facebook. Someone was like, I went to high school with this person, hit him up. I hit him up. He was just so quiet, but it's like, you know, I knew that whenever I was interviewing him, I was like, ugh, this dude is like, you know, he don't really want to talk, but it's like
dry.
Yeah, dry. He just like was, you know, you had to pull things from him, but it was such a fun conversation. Absolutely. Because like you could see him let that wall down in the first like, you know, 20 minutes, and then the conversation just starts flowing, and you're like, this is happening again. And it's like, I don't know, I love it, you know, like it's like what fulfills me most. It's like after a good conversation, people leave and I go upstairs and I'm all giddy, and my wife is like, it was good tonight, wasn't it? Like, you had a good conversation. I was like, it was fucking awesome.
Yeah, you know? There's 2 thoughts I have in regards to how the podcast does this for me. Like, the one aspect is that it further exacerbates my need to keep humility at the forefront, because the more humble I am, the better the conversations are, because I will take more in. It isn't about me talking. I do plenty of that. That's what we do here. But ultimately, if you really are humble enough to really absorb what that guest is trying to lay on you, that's where I think the expansion comes from. So I think the podcast helps me stay grounded. And then conversely, I think that we migrated to do this probably incoherently, but we did it. We migrated toward this because we're fulfilling a need and a skill set that we have, which includes a lot of humility, because that's where to be inquisitive, you have to have at least some level of humility. So we ended up migrating this direction, but once we got there, it just gave us more of what we really wanted.
For sure.
So I feel that is, for lack of a better phrase, or maybe it sounds corny, but I think that to me is priceless. I can't put a value monetarily on what I get out of doing this from a joy standpoint.
Yeah.
And again, people say I'm nuts, no sponsors, all that. I'm telling you, if I wasn't having fun and getting a lot of it, I wouldn't. This is a lot of work.
Yeah, it's easy to. It would be easy to let this fall apart if you were getting nothing from it.
Just forget about it. Yeah, do something else
for sure.
But
I mean, it's just extra hours of your day. I know how long it takes me to do all the shit that I do, and I don't have video. You have a whole orchestra of all kinds of shit here. So I know it takes you even more. And, there's a certain level of respect that I feel like people that don't do this, they'll never understand it. They're not going to ever understand what this is.
And that's okay. I mean, it's not for everybody, but
for sure.
That joy component for me is and it's just so. I have a couple guests. I think you're probably in that group that could probably grasp it, that understand what I'm saying. I have a couple other people who don't podcast, but they're wired in a way where they get it. They've known me and they see what I'm doing, and they've been on the show, and they know the kind of happiness that comes from having these conversations. And, and I in the broader picture, Chad, what about this concept? Forget the individual conversations, but look at what I'm doing, and I'm doing this as a passion project. I would hope someone would look into this and say, because everything runs by money, right? That's just society. And we'll talk about that in a second. But they know I'm not doing it for that reason. And so they have to be, I would hope some people would wonder, well, there's got to be something intrinsically cool about doing that.
For sure.
And he's getting something that I can't even describe, or I may not understand it, but there's got to be something there. I would hope that curiosity could be planted in some people, and then they could go out and do something similar, because that's what I'd like to do, is just spread the idea that you can get joy out of having human conversations.
Yeah.
Human, interactive, verbal, eye-to-eye conversations.
Yeah, I like the way that I like the thought of that for sure, because I can agree with that, because people see that you put in the time and the effort with this, and they see that you obviously are persistent at it, and you keep doing it, and there got to be something to it. If it wasn't worth it, you're not going to keep doing this. Time is valuable. You can never buy time.
Right.
So it's not like you're pissing it all away doing something that's just not giving you any sort of joy.
Right.
But I think about it, this might not be like the same vein of things, but it's like it resonates with me. Whenever I was younger, I thought about, how people did things, and even though it wasn't like my, it might have not been my thing necessarily, whether it be like a clothing brand or something weird,
right?
But in my later years, I have really understood how to respect what people do, whether it be something that I have no interest in or anything. I respect time that people put into things that they do, because this is a lot of people are not getting paid money to do shit like this.
Right.
I thankful for Turners for sure, but it's like, I did this shit.
And was there not Turners waiting for you?
There was a Turners, and I have to thank you for that. There was a Turners. No.
I did it for because it was great. The timing was great.
He had it on deck. Nice cold ice thug jug. But it's like, it's awesome that they wanted to work with me, because that's like it's a dream come true. But before this, I didn't, I wasn't getting paid. I was doing this shit anyway. And, I have friends that definitely, I have friends that are like my best friends that don't listen to anything I do. They don't support anything I do. That even like dumb shit, like even a like on Facebook. And it's just like, people just don't understand it. People don't understand what this is, but I don't expect everyone to, but like there is so much joy that comes from it, and it's cool to be able to like show people that like, oh, I'm still doing this after 4 years. Like it got to be something. Just like you said, it's an opportunity. You're giving people this idea, the possibility that like this is something that is rewarding,
and we're also showing, I think, and this may be an underlying benefit of all this, but I believe that we're showing society in our own little tiny minuscule way that this is still the best way to communicate the human experience.
For sure.
Sitting across from the table, talking, there's, like you mentioned it prior, there's so much more you'll get out of the conversation based on voice inflection, timing, all things that you can't get with the written word.
Yeah.
You can't get it.
Yeah. That's why I don't ever put a time limit on any of the podcasts that I do.
Yep.
I'm conscious of it. Like I don't want to always put out 3-hour plus podcasts, because it is a beast for people to listen to that all the way. But I don't ever put a time limit on it, because I never have a notebook of questions that are written down for people, for guests. It's just wherever it goes, it goes. I know you run your shit the same way, and
exactly the same way.
It's just like I love a tangential conversation. I love being able to dive into the ideas of the joys of a human conversation, and like switch over to fucking aliens. You know what I mean? Like I like that versatility. That's the beauty of this.
Well, that's how people used to communicate. I don't know like how right now most human conversations kind of go, because we talk in spurts. You send a text message to get information out, and then sometimes you'll ask for information and you'll wait to hear it back, and it's so disjointed. And what happens at this table, whether it's one guest, two, or we have a round table, just to see the brains interact. Like sometimes I'll just sit back like this and I'll watch my 3 guests here on this topic, and I'll see the passion in all 3, and I can see like the steam coming out of the ears. For sure. Because that is magic, man. Now,
it is.
We used to take this before the web. We would take this shit for granted. You could have a conversation on a school bus with 5 or 6 friends, and we would take that for granted. But think about it now. I don't know what a school bus is probably like in the year 2021, but I'm guessing most kids are sitting there,
headphones, phone on.
This is not.
Yeah.
How is that fun? I mean, I don't know.
It's different strokes. It's different worlds.
I'm not knocking.
No, I get it, but it's a different world.
But I can't look into that and relate to it. So for me, I utilize electronic communications for my career and where it's necessary, and I see the benefits. Sometimes short spurts of information are vital.
Yeah.
And easy. But it's not a replacement for the real human experience, the real human communication experience. I don't think so.
Yeah, I mean, this is, you can't get anything more than this. Before there was anything in the world, there was people that were just sitting around a fire talking to each other, in some way.
Yeah,
it's the only way the history was passed down through life.
So true.
And it's cool to think about that, because I was thinking about like, it's kind of dark, but if I ever had Alzheimer's, like there got to be close to 1,000 hours of audio online of me talking and about my life and things like that, and it's cool that I'm gonna have that
100%.
whenever.
That's
50 years,
point.
50 years from now, if I could make it to that long, if I quit drinking fucking Red Bull, you know what I mean? If I can make it 50 years, it will be insane to be able to think that like I can listen to some of these conversations from back then.
Oh, it's exciting. And that's where I think you're in an incredible opportunity. I would give anything to have recordings of myself 30 years ago.
It's like a
talking
journal
about life. Yeah, I have my written words, which I'm glad I have those, but to actually...
You write journals?
Oh, yeah, I journal just about every day.
Yeah.
I've been doing it for almost 40 years now.
Really?
Yeah, since I was a mid-teenager, like 15, 16, so it's almost 40 years now.
What makes you want to... What made you want to get into that?
That's a good question.
I always wanted to, and I always tried.
English teacher I had me writing, and I liked to write, but I didn't like to be corrected on grammar or anything.
Yeah.
But I loved the concept of getting it out on paper.
100%.
And then I realized that the way I dealt with grief, whether it was girls, relationships, friends that are all friendships that got fucked up, whatever it was, just getting it like vomiting on paper.
Yeah.
I always would feel better. It's like a purge to me. And I think that just that stuck. And then I went through a diary phase where it was just literally like every moment of it got kind of obsessive for a couple of years there. But I can go back and read these now, and they're under lock and key, and I'm very protective because I don't want them. They're too personal.
Yeah, for sure.
What I'm saying is I wish I had the audio of me talking, or even like the conversations that I had. Like, you know, I lost my only sibling in 96, my brother, and I would give anything for all the funny conversations we had, just to have one of those on audio, to sit and listen to that. What a treasure.
Yeah.
My point is, you know, if you say you have a family at some point in time, what a gift to give to your children. If you were struck down in your 40s, heaven forbid, something like that, your children have a legacy of what my dad thought, what my dad did, what, you know, that's, and maybe they wouldn't be interested, but it's still there.
Yeah, it's an opportunity.
And it's more valuable than the couch you leave them.
For sure.
Or a piece of furniture, right? I mean, so I guess what I'm trying to say is these shows for my kids and maybe my grandkids that I hope to someday see, maybe God willing, I hope. But there's a legacy of what I believe, what I feel, what was going on in the world, whatever.
Yeah.
And for my kids, you know, the guitar thing was a big thing for me for a long time. Boogie Streets is so stamped on my forehead, right? But they were young during that. But now they can watch these shows with some of the guests I've had, the music guests. They can see the tie-in.
Yeah.
I'm just trying to say that having these shows, they're evergreen, but it's a permanent timestamp, and it's a way to document what's going on in this cranium here.
Yeah. And
you will love this, I promise you, as the years go on. You know, and as your life evolves, you'll love looking back on it. The legacy you'll leave for your children and your family. It's a beautiful thing.
It's the only thing that the only reason I feel like it is, you know, a little bit better than a journal even is because, you know, in a journal you're writing things down. You can't tell the emphasis that you're putting on things.
100%.
You could 100% capitalize all words, and you know that you're trying to feel the inflection of it all. But it's like, you know, in a conversation, you know, it just adds something more to it. It's like that spice.
It's unbelievable.
It's unbelievable, and it's just so fun to be able to do, because especially after like the pandemic. I think we talked about this whenever you were on my show. It's like during the pandemic, you know, everyone was so closed off to everyone. You know, obviously, we were all locked in our house.
Right.
And after being able to talk to awesome people for a couple years, I was yearning for that conversation, you know, the whole pandemic, because it's like, wow, I had all this at one point, and it's so fulfilling to be able to just talk to these random people about their lives.
Yep.
You know what I mean? Just random people about their lives. And then it get ripped away from you, and then you're just like, damn it, and you start to realize like how much you appreciated it as it was not there. You know what I mean? I wanted to be able to like have people over and just like hear about their life. Anyone, you know, it would have been great to have like even like friends and family, but like just even other people would. Of course. And it's just such like a rewarding experience to like hear about people's lives. Like I was sitting on my porch one time, and I was looking at the houses across the street, and I just saw like, you know, people walking in their windows, and I'm just like, you know, my whole life I feel I'm just a regular dude. My life was, I feel, kind of wild to me. You know, I don't know. I never lived another life. So to me, my life is pretty cool. And I think about all these people living in these other houses, and I'm like, this person had their own life, and it was probably fucking awesome. You know, I want to hear about it. I want to hear what period of their life made them gravitate towards wanting to be a funeral director, wanting to own a restaurant, wanting to, you know, be the person that you call if there's a rabid raccoon in your house. Yep. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, I get it. And that's where, you know, two things. The first thing I think is that we all have amazing experiences. The human condition is unbelievable. So the stories that you see in the media, or the certain people in our our worldwide sphere who get this media attention. You know, they're wonderful people, I'm sure, but that's not representative of all of us. There is uniqueness and cool stuff in the most, not mundane, but in the most common
things.
And I think that is, there's no rhyme or reason why people would really want to listen to what you are doing or what I am doing and having real conversations with people outside of the fact that they find it, they find comfort might be the wrong word to use, but they find commonality with like experiences, even though they might already know what the answer is going to be as you're telling the story, because they've done it too. People yearn to find commonality. That's part of the human condition.
Am I the only one, or is there someone else that feels the same way that I do?
Exactly right. And that person doesn't have to be a celebrity or have notoriety. It can just be just a person that has a great story. I mean, who's willing to articulate it and get it out.
Yeah.
And that's the part about podcasting that I think was not visible to me in the beginning, because I thought, to do a podcasting you have to get all these certain kind of guests, and I went the list of people I reached out to, and I've met some fantastic people. But when I pulled away from notoriety and I emphasized more on interesting, so you know what I mean? The show just went woof.
That's when it blossoms. Because I was the same way in the beginning. I'm like, I need to get some bigger name people to like get people on, I
think everybody
on the
starts
train.
that way.
Yeah, because you're like,
Well, you don't know what you're doing.
Well, but I have a whole, drawn out theory of all this. It's like in the beginning, whenever you start, you're going to have to put out content to build a base audience.
Sure.
Okay. So you start, your shit's going to be trash. You got to put it out because you're going to have to build a small cult following of people that just want to support you for that. And then as you build, you're slowly going to build another audience. So it's like you might have a year under your belt, but once you got like some, like them heavy hitters, like later down the road, you want to have a base of a bigger audience for people, for that to land on. But it really makes no sense the way that we thought about it in the beginning. It's like, oh, well, I'm going to get this big name person on here, and there's no one listening anyway because no one knows what this is.
Good point.
And it's kind of interesting to think about that.
It's a good point. Yeah, we almost all have it backwards.
All of us.
Yeah.
All of us.
And that's the ego. That's the human ego, right?
Why do you want to waste your conversation with this person whenever you don't even know what you're talking about? I've had people on in the beginning that I probably, would have wished that I could have had on, a couple years after, because I just wasn't prepared to talk to him the right way.
Yeah, I have a couple that I'm going to read. It's funny you said that, man. And the funny thing is our audience is much bigger, from what I can tell, than it was in the beginning. But that's not the reason I want them back on. I want them back on because I'm a better conversationalist now than I was then. And I think that I would be able to engage better and get more out of the conversation.
Absolutely.
Selfishly,
Absolutely. Because in the beginning, the first episode I had, it was, I was so nervous about it. I had 25 questions written out. So it was me asking my buddy who was in a band, I would ask him a question and then he would say his answer, but I wouldn't even be paying attention to his answer because I'm preparing another question.
Yeah. And a lot of it's just nerves and not knowing what you're doing.
Exactly.
You almost, at least I felt in the beginning, and I should have been more polished because I'd been in corporate sales and I'd done presentations, but I found myself being kind of stodgy.
Yeah.
And I had a radio show, for Christ's sake, before I did this, but it was different. Like, it wasn't a pure, an interview. It wasn't a conversation. The radio is different because you are doing a formal interview sometimes.
Yeah.
Sometimes you're just riffing to the audience, which is great, but it was different. This setup, it took me a good 20-some shows. The first 20 shows are fun, but it took me 20 shows to realize that this is really a conversation. I need to start treating it like that.
100%, and I'm the same way. In the beginning, I would, the way I prepare for a guest now is completely different than the way that I did before. Whenever I did before, I would write down all these questions that were like, hard questions that I just wanted to absolutely ask, like, what brand of guitar or whatever, like that. Just details that I thought.
And you think you're going to forget those questions, so you write them down.
Exactly.
Meanwhile, you never forget them. Really.
Yeah,
I mean, because you have them.
Well, the best part about it is, if you could exercise that muscle and train it to be the way you want to be able to do it, that's going to come naturally.
Bingo.
You know what I mean? You're going to be able to drive that car the way you want to drive it
and weave it into the conversation.
And weave it in there. You know what I mean? That's where you have to develop that muscle. Like, I was trash in the beginning.
Me too.
And I think about it, but I mean, just like you, I think I'm a great interviewer now. I think you're a great interviewer now.
I'm a conversationalist.
Yeah. But it's a conversationalist is definitely something, but it's also an interviewer. I mean,
you weave it through.
Maybe you're more of a conversationalist, but like, I feel like, with some of the people that I have on, that have these like other jobs, like a vet or anything like that.
Yeah.
I have to be an interviewer in some way.
Yeah, but you do a really good job, and I mean this, you really weave a conversation. Maybe the interview is done from a purely conversational style.
Yeah.
And that's why it may come off like it does, but I understand the necessity to have the interview because you're obtaining information.
Yeah, for sure.
But it doesn't feel like, you're sitting there with like, okay,
I appreciate
on this
that.
day, what did you do?
I appreciate that.
You know what I mean?
And that's the goal. That's the goal.
I think
overall.
so, because that's what the audience, I'm assuming, because I know what I want to hear. Joe Rogan's an amazing guy. He probably has learned a lot about his own interview style and conversation. I think he's very worldly. I think he's very well read. He's up there with Stern to me in terms of how he can get the most out of that person sitting across the table.
For sure.
But at the same time, I listen, and there's times that I'm turned off, not by subject matter, but actually by, you hear missed opportunities, you hear him maybe going off on a tangent, and there's nothing right or wrong with it.
Yeah.
Because none of us are perfect. You and I make those mistakes probably every show.
For sure.
But what I'm saying is there's beauty in that imperfection.
Yeah. And that's a style. That's all of our style.
Right.
You know what I mean? I'm not good at some things that you might be good at, and vice versa. And that's what makes us unique in this world of saturation.
And that's what I meant. Like, so Rogan's got that, and even those moments where it infuriates you, you know what? You have to step back and say, this is good. I'm glad it infuriates me, those little moments, because
you apply that to your life.
Well, of course, and you don't want I don't want to listen to perfection.
Yeah.
I don't want perfection around me because it's things that rub that make life, gives the juice of life, right?
Exactly. People aren't looking for, everything that's perfect, because that's all flowing the right way.
Exactly.
Everything is all flowing together like a river. People are looking for, the things that are stopping at the big tree stump that's people are looking at things for the things that are messed up.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That's why people enjoy things. Like Mark Maron is he I feel is, my favorite interviewer.
Mm-hmm.
I love the imperfections of his interview. That's what makes me want to listen to him all the time. Bobby Lee is also someone who
agreed.
He's a great interviewer, but he has so many imperfections.
He irritates the shit out of me.
Yeah, he's irritating, but it's like I enjoy that dynamic.
Yeah. He has to be, though. You don't want perfection.
Exactly, and that's why people listen to it. Some people like the way that I do things, and that's just that's just how it is. And I love that that is.
You don't want perfection. You're never going to get it, number one, and you'll drive yourself insane trying to get it the perfect show. There's no such thing.
Well, it's not even that. Think about how, if you have someone who is from New York and they go to LA, everyone does everyone's podcast there.
Yeah.
Let's say, Theo Vaughn goes over there and he does Bert Kreischer, Joe Rogan, Tom Segura. I can listen to all three of them because all three of them hosts are all different.
And that is what people say. They look in and they go, podcasting is its own cottage industry. Like here, you run his show, you're on his show. Yes, there's a part of that, because I think a lot of it is this conversation here is much different than the conversation we had 6 months ago.
For
and
sure.
then when we do this again in a couple months, that conversation will be different.
Yeah.
It'll feel different. It'll look different. It's very rare when I will take a show that I listen to with Rogan and a guest that I really enjoy, and then see that flipped with Rogan actually is the guest, and his prior guest is now the podcast host. Jordan Peterson was an example of that with him. The young physicist that wears the black suit and the white tie.
I know who you're talking about. I can't remember that name.
It's a brilliant kid, but when that's flipped around and he's the host and Rogan's the guest, you get a different thing. Rogan's a much different guest,
For sure.
than he is as the host.
For sure.
Much different, you know?
Yeah, I don't really listen to too much of his anymore. Got to be a guest that is that I'm super interested in.
Yeah, I'm kind of the same way.
I'm very picky, and it's not the fault of anything in
That's
particular.
the beauty of the show.
Exactly.
It's in the open, like what you're doing, what I'm doing. It's an open. How do they say it? It's an open show. It's
Open format.
yeah, no, it's an open topic show, open format, excellent.
Yeah.
where you're getting a wide variety of people.
Yeah,
That's
you don't know what you're going to get.
I could not do like just a sports show or a music show or
Yeah, I don't want that.
That's cool stuff, but that's not enough for me.
It's not enough. I talked to a veterinarian, and now this week I have on a rapper from Chicago.
Exactly.
And it's like those are scratching all different itches, and it's
No
like
pun intended.
Yeah, but it's like I don't know. I just really enjoy hearing all these different
Of course.
people because everyone's life is just so different.
Yeah.
Do you find yourself? Do you consume a lot of podcasts? I feel
Not as much as I used to.
Yeah, I don't have a lot of time, so I don't really listen to too many.
You'll laugh at this, but I'm like on these crazy spy novel audiobooks from AudioDot. So you listen to one for a couple of nights, you're like, oh, shit, that was good. Then you notice the author has 7 more.
So you're like, I'm going to rip through these real quick.
Right now I'm in that mode where I'm picking at what's on Rogan and Segur. I'm looking at those, but I have to be really knocked over.
Yeah.
Lex Friedman was the gentleman we were talking about.
Yeah, Lex Friedman, that is his name, yeah.
But I think like anything else, there's so much content, so much good content that after a while you need to step back and take a break from it. And I've become better at this craft, I think, by stepping back and not indulging an excess amount of podcasts. Because in the beginning, I was just like,
well, I get burnt out
every day.
Yeah,
right?
super burnout because it's like whenever I got into podcasting, I feel like I was in it pretty early as far as a listener aspect of it all.
Yeah.
Like whenever Rogan was in his basement, like whenever he had the shitty ass screens. So I was listening to these conversations while I was, in school and like commuting. I used to commute an hour each way up to school. So I would rip through so many podcasts, and then I ended up like burning myself out because it's like, you could burn yourself out with anything. And then I would step away from podcasts for a while and go back to music, but then I would go back to podcasts and not listen to music forever.
I think it's healthy.
But I agree with that. But it's now I'm kind of phasey. It's like some days there'll be a month where I'm just listening to podcasts, but then there'll be a month where I'm trying to finish a show.
I think that's normal, man.
Yeah, the last 2 months has been The Sopranos.
Normal. Yeah.
You ever watch The Sopranos?
Yeah. You told me last time you were getting ready to start to watch that.
I watched
You're
it.
addicted. Huh?
I already
Did you watch all the seasons?
I'm done. Yeah, I'm done with it now. But it was just like for that 2 months, like I felt like that I was like in the mob.
It's one hell of a show, brother.
It's one hell of a show for sure.
Yeah.
And but that's like, I get into these phases and I get in and out of things.
I do the same damn thing. So you wake up one day and you decide, I think I'm going to start a podcast. Is that kind of how it happened?
I don't think so. I think I
evolved.
I got into Rogan early, so I really enjoyed being a fly on the wall. That was like, I was addicted to it.
Okay. Why? What about it when you first started listening got you addicted?
Well, you have the people that you enjoy, whether they be celebrities. Let's say I enjoyed, Robin Williams or like Jim Carrey or something like that. The only opportunity you have to see them do their craft is their stand-up, or if they're on late night or something like that. You only get the spark notes glamorized version of it all. In a podcast that's 2 hours long,
Yes.
you know, you can get addicted to the tangential conversations because you could really hear about what people think about, you know, dumbass shit like the fucking assholes who don't return their grocery carts, you know, something like that. I want to hear Jim Carrey's thoughts on real life, not just him as an actor. I want to hear about Marc Maron in real life.
Got it.
What makes him tick, what annoys the shit out of him. And it was addicting to be able to be a fly on the wall, because that was the first opportunity to be a fly on the wall with your, you know, your heroes.
So, excellent point. Now, to carry that a step further, have you asked yourself,
Yes.
isn't it interesting how that must really make certain celebrities feel really uncomfortable, because a lot of celebrities do not do podcasts. And I think it's for that exact reason. They don't want to open up all of that to the public. Now, they may be doing it for a strategic reason. Prince, right, would never give the public much because they'd want more.
Yeah.
I think it has to do with just, to be honest with you, I think it exposed, or podcasting exposed, the true lack of depth in a lot of our celebrities.
If you're talking to someone for 2 hours, you can't lie about it. I mean, you could lie, but people could read you more than, you know, just 4 minutes on cable
100%.
television. You know what I mean?
100%.
You give yourself more opportunity to put your foot in the mouth. You give yourself more opportunity to really show your true colors. And that's why you have to be, that's why, you know,
That's why actors don't do. Think about this.
For sure.
What is the one genre of entertainment that does the least amount of podcasting? It's actors.
For sure.
By nature, they're playing somebody else, some other role, pretending to be someone else.
That makes a lot of sense.
I don't know, as a whole, are most actors comfortable about going deep on anything in a public forum?
Yeah.
I don't think so.
Well, that's why I think that's. Do you ever listen to Marc Maron?
Yes.
So that's why I'm so fascinated by his show, because he'll have people like, you know, Andrew Santino, who's a young, you know, up and coming comedian. Well, not up and coming, he's here already.
Yeah,
but
here.
Or you'll have, you know, fucking Sharon Stone.
Yeah.
And you're like, Sharon Stone. You're like, I want to learn about her, because you don't hear shit from that.
Right.
So I like, you know, the dynamic of his show, because he usually has these wild people, and he had Brad Pitt and Leonardo DiCaprio on, and it's just, you know, you don't often get that,
No, you do
know,
not.
candid conversation with
point.
people. Yeah,
That's my point.
And that's
Like Jim Carrey. Do you see Jim Carrey on a 2-hour podcast?
no, and you're right though. But that, you know, it really reveals who you
Where's
are.
The Rock at? Where The Rock is the most popular man on the planet.
I think I think that he literally does not have enough time in the day to spare.
I think it's an excuse.
I don't know. I feel like if he could have a podcast, he would be.
Oh, I don't want him to have a podcast.
I know, but to
want
be a
him
guest.
Why will he not sit down with Rogan? He's
I mean-
the most popular man on the planet. So his handlers are convincing him that maybe the overexposure will hurt him, or he's real comfortable in these spurts of information and to craft that image. But if you got down the dirty with him and you did it for 2 hours in an unvarnished environment, he may disappoint.
I get
that's
that.
where I think that also could be a possibility. And maybe he knows he would disappoint in a 2-hour unfiltered conversation. So I don't know. I'm not knocking him. I'm saying it's interesting to me.
I think it's
that
interesting.
they don't do it.
I could not disagree with your outlook on how I feel like that if him and Rogan talk for 2 hours, it would be a fantastic conversation. I feel like that guy has so much to him, but I truly feel that, you know, people that are in that tier of, like, you know, fame and celebrity. Rogan is not in that tier because he controls his environment. He does not do what he doesn't want to do. He keeps his shit very, you
In
know,
a very enviable position.
control. Yeah, I mean, like, he doesn't travel overseas for the UFC anymore. He doesn't even do all the UFC events. He goes to his office, which is a fucking compound built exactly how he wants it, and he just does what he wants. Granted, there's a lot I'm sure that's going on, behind the scenes that he has to, meetings and everything like that. But if you look at people like The Rock and Kevin Hart and all that, I truly feel that dude does not have time. I was looking at a 90s road schedule for Ric Flair, and he had like 2 days off in 365 days.
Yes, but the argument can be made that they have all the time they want. They choose that schedule. They can do whatever the fuck. If The Rock didn't want to be that busy, The Rock doesn't have to be that. Here I'm talking like him now. The Rock didn't have to be that busy.
I agree with that. I was surprised whenever I saw people like, Robert Downey Jr. on Rogan.
I'm encouraged by that. These are people that we want to hear from. This show that there's more depth than just the red carpet. Like, has Brad Pitt done one yet?
I don't know. I don't,
because I never thought of him to being a very deep person.
I don't think I feel like Brad Pitt might have been on Rogan, but maybe not. I know he was on. He was on. Mark Maron, and like that was cool. But anytime any of them people were on there, it's very short. So, which makes a good point for what you say. I don't know. I'm like a rock stan. You know what I mean? I think that guy could do no wrong. But I often wonder that. Why isn't he on Rogan ever? Because Rogan is like, you would almost think that they would implement that into his marketing schedule because that's the biggest thing in the world.
Think about this. So there's a lot of ego going on. So in Rock's world, him going on Rogan maybe he thinks he's above Rogan. I mean, I don't mean it in a purely arrogant standpoint, but in terms of when you're at that position, that's successful, a lot of people are building you up all day long. Your handlers don't get paid to criticize you because most people can't take that. The honesty. So when you hear constantly that all these successes and the Terramana and the movies and the Under Armour and the headphones and the shoes and his weightlifting gym and his millions of people on Instagram, okay, there's all of this stuff is working. Does he want to take the risk of going on 2 hours of Rogan and stepping in it and then maybe stepping in it a little bit more and then not being able to get back out of it again? And like you said, it's evergreen. Once it's published, it's published.
That's an interesting way to look at it.
He can manage his 2-3 minute interviews. He can manage his interviews for Entertainment Tonight or for WWE. He can manage that stuff.
It's because there's not an opportunity to dive deep into maybe certain situations.
It's unedited, brother.
Yeah, well,
it's unedited.
But if you only have 5 minutes, it's kind of like,
it's fluff.
It's fluff, but it's also like you kind of have bullet points, I would imagine. But if you have
a good salesman too.
If you have a 2 hour long podcast, you can dip into politics and you can dip into all that shit that might be bad for business. Who knows?
It might be areas that he doesn't want to go to. And Rogan, to his credit, may say, look, I don't want to do a show with you if you're going to put conditions on it, so it's just not a good fit. And I think think about this. Think about this. So, I'm not a fan of this guy's music. I don't.
Kanye West.
Yes, I'm not really a fan of him, period.
Okay.
But I don't hate him, and I'm kind of indifferent.
Yeah.
But I really wanted to spend the 2 hours and like maybe learn something there.
Did you listen to his podcast?
Entirely. And it was extremely disappointing on all kinds of levels. I got nothing out of it. I basically was exposed to a man that has some kind of bipolar issues where I think he has spurts of brilliance and has proven it in certain areas of his life, but he's not able to carry on a 2 hour conversation in a semblance of order. So to me, it was disappointing, and I just wonder that in a certain circumstance, would The Rock perform very similar and or be viewed after it's over with a diminished luster? And that's where, I credit West for going on there, but he didn't do well. And it doesn't mean that his fans aren't going to like him anymore. I'm just saying for people that are indifferent like myself who are peeking in to get a feel for what's all the mania about, I left there going, I don't really get it. I don't think I'm old. I don't think his styles are worth a hell, and I definitely don't like his music. So I don't really know what the allure is. There's definitely something there. I'm not saying there isn't, but he did win me over.
Yeah.
And so there wasn't any depth there. And I think if The Rock goes on there, maybe we will see that the there's not a lot of
You
depth there.
you got something going for you. Got something against The Rock. I'm just kidding.
No, I used to like The Rock when he actually. When he was a wrestler, I thought he was hysterical. It was great behind the mic.
For sure.
He's got a squeaky clean image, and I really think that will serve him well. I think he's got political aspirations, which might be the reason he's not going on there.
That's interesting to think about, and I
just don't believe when someone is that popular and that's so squeaky clean, you always know at some point there's got to be more to the story than that, right? There's got to be.
Yeah.
Gotta be.
Yeah, I could agree with that. I've definitely thought about why hasn't he been on there yet. You know,
or any long form. Not even Rogan doesn't like Rogan. You know.
Well, that's the. I mean,
he's ass.
That's the. That's the show. That,
of course it is.
You know what I mean? That's where everyone's going to go on, and it's interesting now to see what Rogan has like manifested into, having people like, you know, Demi Lovato on, you know what I mean? Because before it was just like, you know, the same. I'm glad.
Miley Cyrus.
Yeah, like it's super. I loved her interview. Like it was super cool, and it's cool to be able to have that, and like for him to switch up his, you know. Because before in the beginning, it was all just different comedians. Yeah. You know what I mean? Yep. It's cool to be able to hear.
He crossed over it all in all parts of life.
Yeah.
Things that, and it's what you and I are doing.
Yeah.
In a very small way. Things that are interesting to us.
Yeah, for sure.
The things that interest us, we're going to go talk to people, right?
Yeah.
That's all he's doing.
Do you think that
That's all he's doing.
Do you think that he's to the point where people are, you know, he says, oh yeah, Spotify doesn't have any control over anything, but it's like, do you think that he was genuinely interested in Demi Lovato, or do you think that these are people that are like, hey, she is promoting some shit, would you have her on?
That's a good question. I don't pretend to have the answer. I will say this: $111 million will make anyone.
Yeah,
will make anyone consider compromise.
For sure.
You would do it. I would do it.
I know.
If it was part of the game, and they were giving me $111 million plus everything else I have going on.
And if people said that they wouldn't do it, they're liars.
Well, 1,000,000%.
Yeah.
And so, but knowing that, I think that he is also fascinated by people. And I'm sure he's had guests on that he really wasn't fascinated by.
Yeah.
But at the same time, you know, I think Miley Cyrus and Demi Lovato, I'm sure there's executives at Spotify. They're quite happy that they've been on there.
For sure.
Okay?
For sure.
Is Joe a big fan of those two particular artists? Who knows? Maybe.
Yeah,
maybe
I think
not.
he's genuinely a fan of Miley Cyrus.
Maybe not. But I like the way, if he is faking it, you know, on those certain instances, I give him a pass. Yeah, but he's doing a good job faking it.
Does a good job at it. Yeah, that's what I mean.
Doing a good job faking it. And there's, if we have to wade through bullshit once in a while to get all the good stuff that he gives,
yeah,
it's fucking worth it.
Can't win them all, right?
It's worth it,
right?
Yeah,
it's worth it.
All right, so back to the original question, man.
Yeah.
You didn't wake up one day and say you were going to do this because you started by listening to Rogan, right?
I started getting into it early, and I always enjoyed being the fly on the wall, so I wanted to, you know, create my own show.
Okay.
So in like 2013, I created a podcast with my buddy and another buddy of mine, and we ran a podcast that we had no idea what it was. You know, it was before anyone in the city was listening to podcasts. Okay. So we would get, you know, 10 listens, 15 listens, and it was mostly, you know, friends and loved ones. So you're like, you know, we did 12 episodes of it. Again, we didn't know what we were doing. We would do like a, you know, a zombie survival guide where it was just like, you know, it was like the season finale of Walking Dead. So we would talk about how we would survive zombie apocalypses.
This was 2013?
2013, I think.
So you were
or
like
2014.
Early 20s.
Yeah, early 20s. I've always like tried to been into, you know, I had a clothing line. You know, I just always wanted to, you know, inject myself into that.
Yeah.
That pool of people in the city. So we did this podcast. Fast forward, you know, in them first couple episodes, we had an opportunity to interview Bert Kreischer.
Yeah.
And, you know, like that was so cool. But
of course,
it ended up just dissolving because, you know, it's hard enough to schedule two people at one time. We had 3 people we had to schedule everything around. I was going to college. You know, it was just easy for it to fall apart. No one was listening, so it just let it dissolve.
Right.
Years later, you know, I always wanted to start another podcast, but I didn't want to do it unless I knew exactly how I wanted to do it, exactly the way I wanted to do it figured out, some sort of like idea rather than just saying, you know, let's start it and figure it out. I wanted to try to come up with a name, a logo, and just really like get my ducks in a row. Yeah, professional. Just do it the right way rather than just dicking around with it.
All right.
You know, you're going to get wet, you might as well go swimming. So I you know, the name came to me and I was like, you know, let's go.
Just let's stop right there and talk about that a little bit.
Yeah. The name? Mm-hmm. You want to know how I came up with the name? Mm-hmm. So I didn't know how I came up with it in the beginning. I'd say a year into it all, I really thought why the name stuck with me. I'll call you right back. You know, why did it stick with me? Why does it work the way it does? And I've settled on it being that every single person that I talked to on the show at one point in their life was working their ass off to get to where they were, to get to where they are today. Okay. You know, whether it be you, me, anything. In that period of time, with all the hard work they're doing, I'm guilty of this. People calling me and me just having to say, yo, I'm doing something, I'll call you right back. I don't do it to be a dickhead. You said
it's so smooth too.
I don't do it to be a dickhead. I just do it because I'm working on something. I'm really trying to work on something. Yeah,
of course.
And I feel I'll call you right back is a phrase that, you know, encapsulates all the hard work that people put into it.
Right on.
You know, I'll get back to you in a second. I'm trying to make some shit happen.
Right.
And that really stuck into my, you know, my mind, and I just always go back to that.
It was an epiphany. It just came.
It was an epiphany. I swear to God.
That's
you know,
crazy.
whenever I, you know, I was trying to think of a name where, because the clothing line I came up with this name, and then like a couple months later, after I made all these shirts and everything, I found another company with the name. I immediately was like, I ain't doing this because you know I don't ever want to put something out that's under something else.
Right.
So I had a whole list of names of podcasts, and I wanted to come up with a name that I could Google and nothing would come up. You know, nothing at all. I wanted to go on the Apple Podcast app and type it in, and I wanted nothing to come up. I'll call you right back was in my mind. I kept going back onto it. I love the phone logo. I've always loved the brick cell phones. Yeah. So I was like, man, like this is kind of like working together. And then I was like, the final test is to look on Apple Podcast and type it in, and if nothing pops up, you know, that's it. I'll call you right back. It got some ring to it. Mm-hmm. You know, it got it's unique.
And then strawberry though.
The strawberry. So the strawberry comes from. The nickname happened, I think I was in 7th or 8th grade. I was invited to a football camp very early. I was the youngest kid out of Elizabeth Forward that got invited there. The rest of them were all juniors and seniors. Me being an 8th grader, all the juniors and seniors, you know, are doing their, you know, junior and senior thing, not giving any young kids some respect. So instead of learning my name like a human being, I'm Strawberry. And that manifested itself and went throughout the entire school. I had principals calling me that. They would call me that over the, you know, the coaches would call me that. I was announced that at the football games whenever I would get like a tackle sometimes.
No shit.
Oh, yeah. It was definitely like something that just stuck with me forever. And I embraced it. I still have, you know, friends' parents that are still calling me that.
Right on.
And I just wanted to, you know, that's something that I embraced in my life, and that was a way to make that phone mine.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. First couple shows. Who was your first show?
His name's Zach Pishney, one of my good friends.
Okay. And what did you talk about?
So Zach Pishney is a kid that was 4 years younger than me, 5 years younger than me maybe, and all my best friends played in a band in high school.
Okay.
All right. They were all similar age to me except for this kid. He was, you know, 4 years younger than me. He was the youngest one in there, but he was the most talented.
Okay.
And he had the most, he ripped on a fucking guitar, you know, young as hell, ripping on a guitar.
Right.
It came to him so easy. Through all them battles of the bands and going to all these like small shitty shows and basements and house shows and everything, like I was with them as they were like wading through that mud and like really putting in the time, you know. This kid we would travel to Columbus to go see a band called Like Moths to Flames.
Okay.
It was just a heavy band that we would go and travel to see. And, we were just fans, buy tickets, and we would go see him. Fast forward, he's now the guitarist in the band. He just wrote this last record, and he's just like, killing it. And it's so motivating. It gives me chills to think about it, because he was, little Zach in this band. And now he is the only one out of all these people who are still playing music and really made it, so to speak. You know what I mean? And that was my first episode, and then I've had him on a few times after that. But second show was Kama Worthy. He was a UFC fighter. That was before he was a UFC fighter.
Yeah, right on. He's been on a couple times.
Yeah, he's been on. I saw him on here, but I just knew people. I knew him because I did the clothing. So I had them I had them paths cross.
So when you go back, do you go back and listen to those shows, or have you recently gone back and listened to those shows?
I've listened to them. I've went back, and I haven't listened to the whole episode, but I will skip through and kind of see the vibe of what we were talking about, just to kind of jog my memory.
And how they aged.
Oh, I mean, as any good artist would say, it was garbage. You know what I mean? That's why I want to, whenever I had them people on again, I felt like I disrespected them in the beginning.
No, I know. I understand the criticism, because I have it, but I kind of cringe it. I think I shared this with you. I had the opportunity to have an 80s rock guitar god come through Pittsburgh, and Tony McAlpine was here. And I had this guy's stuff, and and he's a guitar player.
Yeah.
And comes through, and Freddie arranged him to be on, and I just wish I had my skills today.
Yeah.
That I would have had for that show.
100%.
So I listened to that show, and it's still wonderful he was on, but that's one of those moments where exactly what you just said, I wish I would have had my conversational skills that are current now.
Yeah.
So it'll be good when I get them back on. I get back out on tour once bands start going back out again.
Yeah. I've always been someone who's been very conscious of not deleting, the beginning of your history. Some people, whether it be artists or
I see what you're saying,
or musicians, they'll go and delete all their old posts.
Nah.
It's my thought is, why would I delete that? I want visual representation of the growth that you've made.
That's a tapestry of your life.
Yeah, you know what I mean? If you look at my Instagram of the podcast, you scroll all the way down to the first post, it looks like shit. There was no rhyme or reason that I would do anything. I was just posting random dumbass shit. But, over time, you keep scrolling, you could see, the moments, the epiphanies that I had on how I wanted to do things, and when I switched things up, and I like that.
How have you changed according to equipment? We don't have to get too technical or geeky. We can if you want, but what did you start out with?
I started out with 2 Sennheiser mics and a H6N, a Zoom H6N. The only reason
good.
I bought it because I looked up what the best podcasters that I was listening to back then were. That's what Ari Shaffir used. He uses an H4N. I think he still uses an H4. But Bert Kreischer had an H6, and it was just, for the bang for the buck, it was my best bang for the buck, because I didn't have to have
the Zoom HC. Yeah. We're using an F8 right now.
So but you have to have an external power source and shit for it all. That Zoom runs on batteries. I could be mobile with it.
Yes.
So at first
we could do that here. I can connect this to batteries if I took it out of here. But yes, you're right. This isn't as portable.
You know what I mean? It's just I didn't.
Good stuff though.
It is. It's good stuff, but I didn't have the opportunity to be picky about having people come to me. I wanted to be able to be mobile in the beginning.
Yeah, for sure.
Because I wanted to be able to be in people's environments. That was super important for me in the beginning. But then I started to realize that I can't control the environment if I go to these people. So I went to record a DJ one time, and there was construction going on right next door, and he was like, "Oh, that's gonna bother you?" And I'm like, "Yeah, dude, I'm not recording this right now."
Yeah, right on.
And I just wanted to be in control of the environment of it all.
Yeah, and that helps too, and that's one of the benefits I'm sure you're experiencing now, having your own studio. It's
for sure.
It's like you you control the environment. And yours is very comfortable. I mean, you created an environment that people want to have conversations, and that was unless somebody has OCD, and we haven't encountered anybody with manic OCD yet that probably wouldn't enjoy sitting in here. But for the most part, people like the eclectic nature, and it's we got enough sound stuff in here. It's damp. I mean, the acoustics are really good in this room.
Yeah, for sure.
But it encourages conversation.
Yeah, I mean, this is this is
important.
Cultivates it for sure.
Bingo.
You're sitting here and it's just a good vibe. Like I said, I'm an energy guy.
Yeah,
there's good energy here.
Right on.
I enjoy that.
Thank you. But I would, having your own studio, you can understand that that matters. It helps for production.
Yeah,
the quietness of it all.
It also helps for your creativity.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like me being in a comfortable spot that I don't have to tear down every time. Because whenever I was in my apartment, I would put up the mic arms, I would put up the microphones, get all the shit set up, kick my wife out of the house.
It's nuts.
But now
it's nuts.
I have a place that I can just have all my shit out. So
just turn it on.
Yeah, you just turn it on. So like we were saying, the equipment, I had 2 mics, 2 mic cables, and an H6N. I was able to be mobile. I leveled up my shit to a Roadcaster.
Yeah, right on.
And it gives me the capabilities to import sounds into the sample pads. I could do everything. It's built for podcasting.
Right.
I had an artist on the other day. He had some music that I really enjoyed, and I picked out some lyrics from his songs that like really stuck out to me, and I imported them into the sample pad. So this is the first time I did it. I'm like trying to utilize the new equipment that I have.
Got it.
And we're talking about, he had we got on the topic of collaborating and how intimate it is, and it just so happened I have a snippet queued up from an interview where he talked about collaboration. Okay. So it was cool to be able to do that and like implement that. So
yeah, that's a cool. Let's go down that road. So I do a UFO show here.
Yeah.
And it's probably one of the 2 highest panel shows that I do in terms of viewership. Wonderful people.
Wonderful people.
No, they are. Yeah, I mean, people aren't viewing because of me. It's because of the content that these folks are putting out. I'm just along for the ride. But I will tell you, we bought a TV, and we, because the guy who runs this, James Krug, he is our UFO expert. He belongs to MUFON, but he's also a man of science. It's a really weird dynamic there, really cool.
Yeah.
But he gives presentations at these conventions. So he had this presentation on his laptop, and we just put it on the TV. So for our show purposes, it was awesome. But I have to figure out how to take that, and then incorporate it in my finished product. And I guess my point is, I have to be careful because I don't want a finished A&E documentary. Do you see what I mean? Like, I have to keep the delineation between a talk show / podcast and a finished ultra glossy production.
Yeah.
But I have to make it viewer centric, so I've got to figure out a way to do that, because when he's making reference to this during the show, if the audience can't watch the actual video, that's a fucking problem.
Yeah, you need to put it through a computer so you can record the screen.
Yeah, so we're going to record he's going to start, I guess he's going to restart it and record the actual screen the entire time, and I'll just lace it in like I would a regular video track.
Yeah, exactly.
We'll do that, but we didn't think all that through.
Yeah, I get it.
My point, though, is that do you ever have those moments where you think, well, I want to do video, I want to start this or that? Do you worry about not being too good, but being almost too glossy, or entering an area that kind of leaves podcasting and goes in a different direction?
The only reason so I've been having a big internal battle over the last year of me wanting to implement video into the podcast. Personally, I don't watch video podcasts. I never really do. I usually consume all podcasts just audibly through my headphones. If I'm cutting the grass, riding cars, working at work. I know that there are some people that watch podcasts on YouTube and they enjoy that, and they enjoy consuming that way because it adds a different element to it.
It can.
But I enjoy I get a lot of inspiration from Mark Maron because he's never added video to it.
Right.
I feel like video adds a whole different dynamic that
It becomes a different animal.
well, it adds a vulnerability to people. Not everyone wants to be on video all the time. People are sitting there, fixing their stuff. If their hair's messed up, some people are more conscious than others. Some people are, aware that they're on video, so they're like, keep looking at the cameras and shit like that.
Yeah.
So, it might be a little bit more stuffy for people. Audio is just, it's a little bit easier. It's not as complex. It's easier to edit shit. People don't have to worry about being on camera. And it's weird because the guy that I have on tomorrow, he, that's the first question that he asked me. He immediately said, yo, is this on camera? And I said no. And then we got into that topic. I was like, as someone who is an interviewee, a rapper that's doing these things, that's different than a podcaster. I was like, how does it make you feel if you're on camera? And he was saying, I enjoy, it being audio and not being on camera. And it's interesting to think about that. But I also feel that it would benefit me, but I also feel I don't want to do it. I don't want to dip my toe into that until I'm ready to be in there 100%.
I think that's wise. You don't want to come out and dabble in it, and then find out it's not yours and take it away.
Well, not even that. It's like I don't want to be able to put out one product and not be able to replicate that every single week. I don't want to have one episode with just video and then the next one I don't have video for it. So until I invest a ridiculous amount of money in the shit that I need to do it the correct way, I'm not going to implement video into it. It's working how it is right now.
I think it's wise. And I will say this, I wanted to do a video talk show from the beginning, and the reason I wanted to was twofold. One, I thought that if I had a really good optics, I could initially capture people just on curiosity, and some of them may stick around. That was a marketing end of it.
Yeah.
The other thing was I did envision the four person show, along with one-on-ones, and I noticed that when I would listen to audio podcasts where they added the third person, or they went further and added the fourth person, and sometimes even had five.
It's distracting,
It's hard at times if you really don't key on the voice inflections and changes in timbre of the voices. You sometimes
you can't discern who it is. You can't
tell who it is. So I thought, if I'm going to do these panel shows, which is kind of what I wanted to move toward in the beginning, video just was a better fit.
I agree with that.
Just different goals.
I agree with that for sure. And whenever you do have multiple guests on, it's definitely beneficial because you see more. But that's why I try to only have on one guest at a time. I've always been very adamant about that.
Have you ever done two at a time?
Yeah, for sure. I've had some instances, but it has to fit it has to fit my criteria. I had Mikey and Big Bob on.
Oh, right on.
So I interviewed them together because them two are a pair. You know what I mean? They've been working together. They've been best friends forever. They work off of each other. They know each other's lives. I don't really have on I had on a set of twins who are creatives in the city. They're the Hounds. I had them on because, they're twins. They're brothers. They know everything about each other.
Right.
But whenever you have more than one person on, it gets very distracting because you can't focus on someone's life really.
Oh,
because
it's a whole different dynamic.
If there's another person sitting next to you right now and I'm like, Eric, let's talk about you. What were you like in high school? What kind of shit did you play? Whatever like that. And you get done with your story, and then I go and I have to focus on this other person and ask them the same thing. And by the time that they're telling me their story, people are forgetting about you. So I've always been very conscious of wanting to give my full attention to one person.
Yeah, because your shows are very interview centric.
Yeah.
They're not formal interviews. You're real skilled at putting it in a conversational style.
Appreciate that.
But it's the truth. But I think I have an element of that, but I think I I like the panel discussion. That
I love it.
It's a different kind of. Yeah, I hope so. Because you're going to be part of one here coming up.
It's a different beast.
It's a different beast, and if it's filmed right, I think we filmed pretty uniquely. If it's filmed right, it's really kind of cool to watch.
Oh, it is for sure. And you've definitely inspired me. After we talked, whenever you were on my podcast, I was definitely inspired with the whole idea of panels. So I got some shit in the works for that. I have ideas, but I'm also someone who's like, I'm almost too calculated to a fault. You know, I think about things until I get all the details.
Yeah.
And then
it's a better way to maneuver your life. It's a better way to maneuver your life.
Yeah, but sometimes it's, you know,
it can
a
muck
waste
you
of
up a
time.
little bit. It can muck you up.
For sure.
What I was getting to in regards to the interview thing is that when I add the third person in the room, the interview goes away. It's impossible. Even if that person's an observer. I've had some instances where, and I'm not a fan of this, and I don't want to offend anybody. I love all my guests, and everyone who's been here has been wonderful. I haven't had, knock on wood, we have never had an incident down here ever. Not even slightly uncomfortable.
Yeah.
Everything's been cool. But I've had, at times, people come with their spouses or their girlfriends or their family or their managers where they would sit here and watch me interview the person they're with.
Yeah.
Even that is not utopian for me.
Yeah, I've had that too.
Adding the third person in there, especially if they're really not engaged in any of the conversation, it's awkward. But if the intention is to have somebody here interview them or have an interview circumstance, if you bring another person in, it's almost like you almost feel obliged to a degree to interview them as well.
Yeah.
And that's not,
to involve
that doesn't fucking work.
Yeah.
You want to bounce a topic around and get thoughts on topics and share ideas. Totally different story. Perfect, actually.
Yeah.
When I add the third, I'm never really comfortable.
Yeah.
But when I have the fourth, I'm really comfortable.
Yeah.
2 or 4, perfect. The third's a different kind of beast. It can work. It worked 2 shows ago with me because it was a panel kind of discussion. It wasn't an interview. You see what I mean? But you add the fourth, man, it's just like it gets really good.
I agree with that for sure. And I've had guests where they've came over and they've brought in people with them, and they literally sat on the couch right next to the people that I'm interviewing, and they don't participate at all.
I don't like it.
Oh, I hate it.
I'm sorry, I don't like it.
I used to ask people, like, if it was whenever I was in my apartment, because the quarters were so close, I would make sure I would ask people, are you bringing anyone with you? And I would kind of hint, don't bring anyone because it's fucking distracting. But I've also had experiences where I had people come over and they start talking to the person sitting next to them, like, oh dude, you remember that story? And then you have people off mic having a conversation, and it makes me die a little bit inside.
Oh, then you're singing my song.
Yeah,
man.
and it's like, we're obviously someone who we're people that do this.
Song, man.
We're people that do this, so we want it to be the best way, and we do everything we can to
1,000,000%
control the environment.
Of course.
And whenever it's things that we can't control, like someone bringing someone unannounced,
it's even worse when you got video.
Oh yeah,
like it's tough for me because, like, I created this special environment in here where, from a video standpoint, we want it to look good, and you want the viewer to focus on the engagement between the people.
Yeah.
When someone's just here, there's no way for me to film this where they're completely out of camera.
Yeah.
I got too many cameras in here.
Yeah,
it's just impossible. So now you got the viewer looking in going, why is that person not talking? Like, what the fuck's going on there? So, again, and it's going to come off crass, and everybody's been wonderful. There hasn't been any issues. But ideally, I would just want the person involved with the show in the studio.
Yeah.
I've had circumstances where I've had 3 guests, myself with the panel of 4 people. I've had people ask, can they bring a 5th or a 6th in here? I almost let it happen one time, but I'm kind of holding against it. There's room, but it won't make me comfortable. And selfishly, if I'm not comfortable,
it's not going to work.
Fucking do it.
Yeah, it's not going to work. And that's you don't have to feel any fault from that at all. It's I'm the same way though. I like to create my own environment, and I like to be in my own environment, and that's why.
What's your show?
What exactly?
I just want to be selfish asshole for a second. It's my name on the fucking show.
See,
right?
I was worried. I was worried whenever I moved, because before I moved, I lived closer to the city. I was only 10 minutes out of the city,
right.
But now I'm 35 minutes out of the city. So I had a lot of anxiety whenever we were getting ready to move to our new house, because I was like, are people gonna be willing to drive out to me? You know what I mean? Like, it used to eat me inside that, like, I had to ask someone who lives in Monroeville to come out to me on a Monday evening
if they want to be on the show.
Exactly. And that's what everyone says. Everyone's like, if they're gonna, you're giving them a platform, they want to be on your show. If they don't want to, they're gonna say no. But it's just like, is
it an obstacle, or are you creating an additional obstacle? Moving?
Yeah. But it's like, those are things that are just like, as a podcast, creator, those are things that like eat at me inside, that people probably don't understand, and people don't even like, doesn't resonate with people.
Well, I don't think anyone does. I don't think any of these people brought their friends or their loved ones because I don't think they just understand. They just
they don't.
But it's different. It's a different thing, because, and you don't want to be hurtful and make someone wait outside. I mean, I got the business suite next door, so I can say, hey, there's a TV over there. Go knock yourself out.
Yeah.
Haven't done that yet, but still, it's kind of like, it's like...
You feel like, I'm kind of being an asshole a little bit, but it's like, am I though? But you have to rely on people understanding your point of view, but in reality, unless someone does this, they don't really understand that. Why is it a big deal that they just sit here? And you're like, it's really not, but it could be way better of a situation if they're not involved,
Well, especially because it's a video show. Like, I can almost say, look, it's optics, man. It is really more than that.
That's why I have tremendous respect for what you do with the video, because
it's hard.
It is. It's definitely hard, and you put out a great product.
Thank you, man.
That's why even before I heard of your show, it's like the first time I saw one of the videos, I was like, who is this dude that's putting out this crazy ass content? The studio obviously looks amazing. Like, the video that you put out looks amazing.
Thank you.
And it's it's apparent.
Yeah, and that means, coming from you, that means a fucking lot. Anyone that does this to the degree that you do, that's how you feel about the product. That's a lot of validation. I like that validation
for sure.
And it's you have this vision. This is the tough part about this business, is you kind of have no idea how the show's going to go. You just don't know, and that's the great part about it. But from a production standpoint, you kind of know how you want it to be presented. Yeah. And when you lose control of that, it's tough.
Yeah, it is.
That's tough.
Yeah, it is. It's and that's ultimately why I have not implemented video in it. It's like,
but you will.
I could spend the money and I could buy the shit and do it.
You will.
I will, because strictly for the fact that it'll be more. It'll be able to. It's a way to add more content.
No question.
Because it kills me right now that I have these podcasts that I don't have video to, because there's snippets that I could put on
100%.
Instagram that's gonna ultimately bring more people to the show, and
something we've never done yet, and I need to do that.
Yeah, and that's like really what I'm working on. But it's also like, that whole ball of wax that it comes with, where it's editing, being able to have the capacity to produce these high quality videos like you do each week.
It's a passion thing. It's a labor of love.
It is.
And I will tell you that to take it to the next level and do a full production show and polish the turd, so to speak, and make it like had the show conform more toward the proper editing that is done in TV and in movies. I could do all that, and I could hire somebody to do all this editing and hire somebody to do my social media platform. I would love to have that stuff, but do I want to commit the dollars to it?
Yeah.
And give up some control, and
I'm a control freak.
Yeah, me too. And
I'm really a control freak.
That's kind of the thing I worry about.
How do you get how do you deal with that as someone who is...
I was going to ask you how you deal with it.
I don't really. It's hard for me to. The only thing that is really, kind of forcing me to feel okay with it is, I'm not artistic in the way that, drawing pictures. Like I have a million ideas in my mind, but it's hard for me, I have no artistic ability to draw or produce things like that. So I have to outsource designing from other people. And I have no control over that. And in the past, 4 years of me investing money into designs, there has been times where I've paid people decent money and I just have not been happy with the design it is. And I just have to eat that money because they did their job. They produced this design. It's high quality. It's just not my cup of tea. So I'm not going to put it out. So I ate that couple $100, whatever.
I know the feeling.
But it's like, that sort of like control is something I ultimately want to have control over, but I don't. So I'm starting to realize, there's just things that are going to happen that I'm going to just deal with.
Yeah. So the control thing, looking back on my years of entrepreneurship, I guess the right word. I've had circumstances where my success was extremely limited by, you can say ego, whatever you want to say, but my inability to hire the right people to do the right kind of work for me to help grow my business. I control freak that I couldn't trust.
Yeah.
That hampered me a lot. And I can look back on it pragmatically now. I think the reason now for this show, it's so much of a passion project where I don't, and again, it's just unique to me, I just don't have a money component to it that I'm not compelled to go seek out the right person to quote unquote take it to the next level. Doesn't mean that a year from now, a day from now, 3 years from now, I might do that.
Yeah.
Depending on how I feel that day. I just haven't felt it yet. It's an option for me. And I can see some avenues where it may help my career, but right now that would require me to give up the look and feel, because no matter what I've done, I've shown editors my show, Chad. I've said, look, watch 3 or 4 of these, see the way I edit, the length of the transitions, the camera angles, how it's cropped. I know it breaks every rule of video,
but that's how you want it.
Editing, but it's our unique signature.
Yeah.
So there's consistency. Duplicate that. Here's the raw show. I'll pay you. I paid them. Every single, 1, 2, 3, there's been 4 editors, 4 shows that were not done by me, maybe 5, 4 for sure. None of them looked like I would do them. Everyone took editorial license. I'm not knocking them. I'm just saying I asked them not to. They still did it, trying to correct the mistakes that I make in my presentation and showing me a better way. It's not what I asked for.
Yeah.
So I've just came to the conclusion that human nature in the creative space is so strong that they just can't do for money what I ask them to fucking do.
Yeah.
There's always that, well, I can do this better. Look at this, look at this. Yes, maybe in your mind it's better. I'm paying you to do this. Will you do this? And so far the answer has been they can't do it.
Yeah.
That's a weird thing, man.
I mean, I don't know. My whole thing is no one is going to work harder than you are for your own thing. You know what I mean? No one. Doesn't matter how much money you're paying for. These people are, no one is going to show as much care and passion in your project.
Right. Agreed.
Than you.
Agreed.
So I try to keep it, I try to keep my my hand of cards as close as I can.
Yeah.
Anything I could do myself, whether it be, I love coffee. I wanted to make my own coffee. Mm-hmm. I could have just hired someone to make coffee.
Right.
I didn't want to do that. I went to someone where I could go do the shit myself.
I get it.
I want to be involved in it. I want to have all the control over it, because if it doesn't work, that's on me. But if it does work, that's on me. No one has helped me with this podcast. No one has done anything else for this podcast but me. And it's almost kind of an addicting feeling to know that, like, I'm a one-man show, you're a one-man show. Mm-hmm. It's like no one, I went through all this, like, I went through the mud, and whenever I get to where I'm gonna want to be with it one day, it's like I got here because it was me.
Well, I think you and I are speaking about this from a position where neither one of us are using these vehicles as our main source of income.
Yeah.
If that was different, like when I was in the guitar business, my arrogance or lack of humility and not being able to let go and trust, that hampered me from growing the entity because I couldn't let professionals take the load off me and do certain things that they're good at.
Yeah.
Here, it doesn't hold the same weight because I'm not looking from a monetary component. If this was my sole source of income, you could better damn believe
you're going to do whatever you can.
I would have had multiple people trying to, I don't think it would work, but trying to lift this thing into public television or, whatever.
Yeah.
But we're in a luxurious position now where we can run it as a little dictatorship right now.
Yeah.
We can do that.
Yeah, and it's fun.
Yeah, it is fun. But success will put strains and constraints on your time, and you may at some point feel like, hey, I've got to get some help here.
Yeah, for sure. And I feel that I'm confident enough in myself as a creator to know when that time will be. Like I know whenever there's going to be a time, or I feel confident, I should say, that whenever that time comes, that I'll be able to recognize, like, hey, I'm not being able to perform and do the things that I needed to do at the capacity that I need to do them. So I'll have to outsource that. But I mean, right now I'm doing pretty damn good
managing
at it.
I'm absolutely
doing well at it, and I have. It's I don't have to rely on other people to do shit. You know what I mean? So it's great to know.
That's a big benefit of doing it yourself.
I know how my process is to record. I know how long it takes me to edit shit. I know how long it takes me to upload shit. I know how I want to do it. I just, it's hard for me to want to try to let someone else try to do that because I'm still going to be putting in that time because I'm going to be checking over every single thing that they're doing. And I'm going to end up
might as well do it.
Ultimately have to do it. You know what I mean? So it's like, I have a lot of problems with that. Like trying to give away some sort of
well, it's a level of control.
Yeah.
Or sometimes just perceived control.
But I mean, it's hard for me to even like want to try to involve someone to even like take photos or anything like that. I don't know. I like having it a small operation because I don't have to worry about scheduling with people or, this is in my home. So I don't have to, I want to be conscious of who I have in my home.
Sure. But that's the luxury of doing this because you can do it any way you want.
For sure.
There's no template.
No rules to any of this.
Yeah. And that's the blessing and it's also the curse. There's no, I seem like I've been doing this a lot in my life. Like I started an internet retail guitar business in '98, technically, when all these mom and pop guitar stores were not on the web.
Yeah.
There wasn't any kind of online only dealership.
Yeah.
Guitar players won't buy a guitar sight unseen. Are you crazy? They have to play it first. I had all the reasons not to do this, and I had no template to say, oh, they did it. I'm going to do these things, and it's going to work.
Yeah.
So I was making it up as I go along. Yes, there's lots of podcasts, but this concept of starting a talk show in a little home in my hometown with no particular agenda and no real single topic and trying to put a full polished visual show on from day one, there was no fucking template and not have any sponsors.
Yeah.
There was no template for that. So I feel like here I am again trying to make my way without being able to pull resources or, like a roadmap from anywhere.
Yeah.
And I guess I kind of like it.
Yeah. I like being able to put shit together. I like being able to rely on, who I am as a person and the relationships that I've made over what I've done in my life and being able to, put shit together in a way that I'm able to do. I know so many different people and it's all because of this and all because of just having conversations with everyone. So if I don't know something, someone that I know is going to know something.
Yeah, it's a benefit, man.
Yeah, it really is. And I don't take that lightly.
No.
You know what I mean? Like I'm very thankful for all the people that I've had the opportunity to,
of course,
have to share time with, because when I was younger, I feel I never really gave a shit about time. Everything was surface decisions for me. Like, I never really was, conscious of people's times, respectful of people's time. But as I'm getting older, it's like I'm more respectful of things, and I'm more thoughtful whenever I think about things. I don't want to waste people's time. I don't want to waste people's, things that they can never get back.
Sure.
So it's like,
sure,
it's just something that I try to, really keep in my mind, you know what I mean? Like how I just like want to conduct everything that I'm doing. Yeah. And it manifests every day,
No doubt.
Definitely manifests.
Do you on occasion, or ever, or every day, do you think about what your advice would be for people who ask you and are serious about starting a podcast?
Yeah.
Do you think about what you've told people or what you would tell people?
Oh yeah, people ask me a lot. I tell them, Are
you fucking crazy?
Well, there's some people that are like, can you tell me all the equipment that you use and everything like that? And I feel like that there's some people who think like, some people might have the mindset of thinking like, oh, fuck them. Like, I had to do the research and I had to figure this shit out on my own. They could figure it out on their own. Mm-hmm. But at one period in my life, I was probably like that. Whenever I did the clothing shit back then, it was always just like, oh, I found this person who is this t-shirt printer. Like, you find your own shit.
Right.
But now I just tell everyone everything. I'm like, this is the equipment I have, because in the end, it's all about the time that you're going to put into it.
Equipment's relevant.
Yeah, it's all relevant. And the advice I always give them is to just, start doing it, because you don't know what you're going to be doing. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I kind of had an idea, I'm kind of following along the idea that I wanted to do. Like, I wanted to interview cool people about what they do and how they got to that point.
Right.
I'm accomplishing that, but it's like, it manifested itself over time into what it is today.
Right.
And I feel like everyone, no one's going to have a complete 100% idea and be able to execute it that accurately. It's going to change in some way, but you got to go through an experience and start it so you could start, getting them reps in.
Yeah, people want we know that going in any conversation with someone that's asking you questions is that people want the quick hit. They want the quick fix. We live in a society, it's immediacy, right?
That's it.
But it's not a mantra. You've got to put the time in. Even if you don't even label it as hard work, the time to contemplate what works and what doesn't, what's interesting to you and what isn't. And I would suggest that don't spend a second doing this if it's not interesting to you, or don't spend a second on a topic or speaking to someone on a topic if you don't get anything out of it. That'd be rule number one that I would tell somebody.
I agree with that,
because I don't want to. If I had a sponsorship that was giving me $1,000 or $2,000 a show or $2,000 a month to do this, but they wanted these kind of guests, I could not do that, man. That became a job then.
Yeah, it's a job then. It's a job then. That's why that's why it's important to, if you ever involve money with brands, it's like, it was always important for me to find someone that I didn't have to work for.
On.
You know what I mean?
Right on.
Obviously, I'm still working with them, but it's like, Turner's is not someone, it doesn't feel like work. Nah. You know what I mean? It's just, you're just reminding people, I'm just being a little bit more vocal about what I love.
Yeah.
And I love Turner's tea. No, I'm just kidding. But it's like,
you heard it here.
Really what it is though. And it's, I never really had ideas of like, I didn't start the podcast in hopes that I was gonna, get sponsorship from a bunch of people.
That's what we should tell people, because I think that there's that mantra that people were getting into it, and maybe we should just tell them point blank, and maybe you have, because I really haven't. Like, if what is your goal? If they start saying, well, I'd like to grow it into something, how? By getting sponsors, or what is the goal, or to get wealthy? Because if it's a money thing, that's probably the wrong reason to start it right now.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah, I mean, it's in a world of saturation, it's the hardest time to start anything.
Certainly.
T-shirt brands, podcasts, anything. They're all popping up, 1 million every day.
And it's not impossible. We're not trying to discourage anybody at all. But do it if you love it. Do it for the conversation.
Yeah, trying to make you aware that it's not going to just, popping. You're not just going to blow up. Some people blow up. You see that shit online. It happens.
Yeah.
But it's like so rare. You know what I mean? And I feel like that the mentality that you have going into this got to be correct. I knew in the beginning that it wasn't just going to be like, we're off to the races. Everything's going good. I'm going to, quit my job right after starting this. I knew that like this was going to be a grind. I knew that I was going to have to build shit. I knew that I was going to have to work hard to get people. And then once I started building a resume, once it started getting word of mouth, people were going to learn who I was and what I was building. And it was going to be easier. And like there was times in the beginning where I had to not beg people, but I had to, be out there like searching all the time to have people on. But now it's like I got to tell people like I have 2 months booked out in advance. So I'm thankful for what it is, but I never took it lightly. I knew what I was going to have to do to get to where I am now.
Yeah, no, I get that completely. And I think it's
I think a lot of people don't though.
Oh, there's no question.
Some people just expect this all to happen right away.
Well, I mean, I think that those people probably have other markers in their life and they're running their life that way in other areas where they have expectations that things are just going to work out. And maybe in their life they've been graced or blessed with things working out to their convenience. But this is a tough animal, man. This is media. This is asking someone to buy into a conversation or find something useful that you're offering.
Yeah.
And then I don't know about you, but just having the intestinal fortitude to not look at results and judge them internally. Like, my first couple of shows when I didn't see any viewers or a lot of views or a lot of audios, I mean, I could have quit. Frustration can set it at any time.
Yeah, for sure.
But I mean, either I'm a rockhead or I really love this, but I'm not stopping for anyone else's reasons. I'll stop this when this is no longer fun.
Yeah, I immediately like kind of got, any sort of the gauging of like if episodes had views and stuff like that. You were talking about like the first couple they don't have views, but it's like in the beginning I would go by like what it would be like. What were these views in the first 5 hours? Like, is it starting to like catch on a little bit more? But then I start realizing that like those numbers don't mean shit because it's like
exactly
people are clicking on it because someone else might be a bigger name. Obviously, people like Mikey and Big Bob are gonna have more views,
sure,
than someone who is a random ass person that you call when there's a raccoon that's rabid in your house. But honestly, the conversation, I could not implore people enough to listen to those conversations.
Well, sure,
you know what I mean. Listen to the ones that you don't know.
But in the end, if they listen, great, and you hope that you bring joy and happiness to people and enlightening conversations. But I think, and we've talked about this prior, and I'm going to say it again, and I believe this is my mantra. My mantra is that America is the land of opportunity. It always has been, and I believe it always will be. And the one thing about America is you don't have to be fantastic at what you do. You just have to do it.
Just got to do it.
Over and over and over again.
Yeah.
And consistency and repetitive nature will bring you success every time.
Yeah.
Every time. That's the formula. High quality work over and over again. Critics be damned. Do your thing and believe in yourself. And it's going to happen.
Yeah.
Sometimes faster than other times, but it's going to happen. That's the beauty of the American system, man.
Yeah.
I mean, the rock band Kiss, I'm very familiar with them. They're a big part of my story. Not the best musicians, very strange makeup and costumes. And
I heard Gene just got it.
Yeah, got the COVID.
I heard it.
My point is, when they started that shit in the 70s, they musically couldn't compete with most bands.
Yeah.
But they believed in that formula, and barring the makeup coming on and off, but the crazy outfits, the loud music, the driving force of the band never changed. They beat their brand and their style and their persona into the conscience of America.
Yeah.
with average music, a couple anthems here or there, but just they didn't have to be the best at anything, man. Except maybe blowing shit up. But the point is, they weren't like at the top of the musical charts.
Yeah, I get it.
Top of the technique charts.
But they wedged their way in there, and they built themselves a leg in it.
Repetition and just beating the consciousness of America, bludgeoning them to see that logo, to see what they do. They love them or hate them, you're not going to forget about them.
Exactly.
Well, you kind of do that with podcasting. That repetition over a long period of time, people will. You can't help but not be successful.
Yeah. Yeah,
you see what I mean?
But if you think about it, it's like, I think it all like boils down to the saturation of everything. It's like, no matter what, there's someone else out there that's starting,
of course,
a million of these. So it's always been in the back of my mind that, you know, I don't care if 1,000 more podcasts start. It's just like, what could I do to try to be different with it?
Of course.
And what could I do to make it stand out? Because there's always
part of the journey.
There's always going to be saturation.
Yeah.
It's like, and that's the fuel to your fire. That's what makes you keep pushing and keep being better and keep checking yourself.
But
and
ultimately,
keep wanting to
in the end, the motivation to do all that, are you having fun?
Yeah.
Are you getting a lot out of the conversations? Because as long as that's happening, the rest of the stuff, it's going to work itself out. The rest of it is like, you know, I look now at the viewership of the shows and like, it worked out pretty good. But I mean, I didn't key on that shit.
Yeah.
It's just what happened because I think I put out consistent shows all the time.
Yeah.
Different guests.
Consistency.
And people see me having a good time. They might not even, they see me smiling, having a good time. Then something special is going on down there. They don't know what the hell it is. And even if they peek in for like 20 minutes, I don't care.
Yeah.
You know, we're here. If you dig it, give it a shot. Awesome. If you don't like it, that's cool too.
Yeah. But
I don't do it for them.
I agree with that.
You know?
That's how I think about it too. If you don't want to listen, don't listen.
Yeah.
Someone else wants to.
I got nothing to beg you for. I mean, you know, they've got nothing. They don't have anything out there that I'm trying to obtain for them. I'm not trying to get their dollar.
Yeah, I enjoy, you know, trying to be that vehicle to let people. My mantra of it all, or my goal for it all, for the podcast, is to be able to, you know, create a product that is consumable across the board, whether it be someone like, you know, I look at the listeners that I have, people that I know personally, people that I know just through DMing on social media. You know, I see people like my mother. You know, my mother is 60-some. She's a retired, you know, high-end manager at PNC. She listens to my shows. I have friends that literally just sell weed. You know what I mean? They just sell weed, and both of these people listen to these podcasts, and they both listen to them. You know, high-end manager and just like someone who's hustling. Sure. And they both listen to them, and they both give me their feedback, and it's so fucking cool to be able to like put something out where both of those completely different people from completely different worlds listen to it together, get something from it each in their own way, and just enjoy it in their own way.
Of course.
And that's what's so rewarding to me.
Yeah. It really has a lot to do with the universal message of just communication and being real and being true to the reason why you started to do this. And that was to exacerbate that human experience, which is fading away today, and that's two people getting together, and just like getting it on, just talking about things, vetting it out, learning about each other, asking the questions, because I think everybody really are, for the most part, I think most people are in tune with their vocation and what they do, and they would love the opportunity to extrapolate. Most people take pride in what they do, and they would love the opportunity to talk about that important part of their life or other parts of their life, just given the opportunity. Yeah. And it's amazing, these conversations, if you give the people the space and let them unleash a little bit, you know? Change and conversation cultivate progression. You know what I mean? They really do, because the only things that you could think of, you know, people get stuck in their ways. You know, whether you're someone who was born in the 20s and you might have your own ways of thinking about politics and certain groups of people, it's like, you know, the conversations that you have
and the questions that you ask, they cultivate change and progression in the world.
No question.
And that's always been, something that always like sat in the back of my mind. It's like, whether I believe something or not, or have a preconceived idea with something or not, I always love listening to people's, even if they're completely opposite, feeling of it. Yeah. I love listening to their point of view, because if someone is very passionate in their belief and they're taking the time to explain their belief in detail, you can listen to that and you can get some sort of knowledge from that, whether it be something that you don't agree with or not. But those passions have some knowledge in them.
No doubt.
People put their heart and soul into that, so there has to be something to it.
No doubt.
I like being able to take that in, chewing it up myself, and coming out with my own product of it all. And I wish more people were able to do that, but it's like, I don't know, in a climate like this that we're in today, it's like there's a lot of questions and there's a lot of conversations that are happening, and there's a lot of progression and there's a lot of change happening, but there's also like, half of the people are for all this progression and change and doing things, but there's also so many people that are just stuck in their fucking ways.
No
and
doubt.
It's interesting to see the people that kind of, are able to pull that veil away from their eyes and like be able to hear a different side of a conversation. Like someone who's an atheist talking to someone who is a Christian or a Catholic. If two people could sit down and have those conversations and just respect each other in enough way where they could have a civil conversation, an atheist might say something that makes a Catholic think about things, or vice versa.
Of course.
And I just love being able to be open enough and be secure enough with myself to be able to, change my opinion.
Humility,
and say,
man.
Yeah, and be able to say, like, I was wrong about that. I changed my mind about that.
You got to have it.
It's so important.
It starts with the humility. It has to start there, because if humility is not present, then the two parties are never going to be able to even begin a conversation or sharing of ideas.
Yeah.
Because one is going to be holding the other one at a lower area of prestige in their minds.
Yeah.
And when you think you're a higher level of intellect or prestige than someone else, you're basically going to discount everything that comes out of their mouth.
100%. You can learn something from anyone.
Yeah, it takes humility, buddy. And I just don't, we live in a society where we're encouraged to always be right and fight for being correct all the time.
And die on your hill. You know what I mean?
Much,
if you have morals, stick to them and fight to the death of them.
I'm just done. I don't need to be correct all the time. And I just don't, that left me a while ago, thankfully. Yeah. I think everybody likes to find out they're correct, because you want to believe you're living the correct way, or what you're thinking ends up being correct. But I'm okay if you show me a different way, and I really have some proof that I'm wrong. I'll be the first person to say, yeah, I screwed that one up, and I'll go a different direction. That's just being pragmatic, man. I don't think that's a big skill set. I mean, I guess it has to be today, but I don't get it.
I just think it's fulfilling. It makes me feel fulfilled as a human being to be able to progress my mindset. It's so interesting to think about, like, how everything is, whether it be, what's the right comparison for it? It's like people refer to a data pool of things that are just so dated that it's just old, chaotic, or like old school ways to think about things and to look at things. And like in so many instances, whether it be, whatever you apply that to,
well, to believe a belief that you were taught as a child, that it is the way it is because that's how I was taught, without having understanding as to why that is, but just to believe it blindly because your parents did and their parents did, and that's just ingrained in you, without any kind of curiosity as to why it's that way. That's fucking dangerous.
It is.
And being so rigid that you're not going to explore why, because you may explore why you feel a certain way, and you may feel that way even stronger after you explore, right?
Yeah.
But it's a risk involved that you may explore and find out, oh, maybe that isn't the smartest way to maneuver.
Yeah.
And I think that people are afraid to be wrong. I think people that have beliefs like that don't want to explore because they are afraid that they may find out that they're not correct, and then that would be an admission. And let's face it, that's weak in society, right? When you find out that you're incorrect or wrong at something, that's a sign of weakness somehow. Maybe that should be a sign of strength, intellectual strength.
That's what I was just going to say.
Sophistication.
It's like, that might be a sign of weakness to some people, but realistically, it should be strength.
It should be.
To be able to recognize that and to be able to, understand that and to be able to be okay with yourself enough to be able to, alter the way that you might think of things.
It all starts just by having these conversations, brother.
It does.
Did you have a good time?
I love it.
Yeah, man.
I love
really
everything
appreciate
you do with
doing this, dude. I was looking forward to this one.
I was really looking forward to it too. It's always interesting to be on the other side of a microphone.
You did great.
I appreciate that.
Yeah.
I was nervous for sure.
Get the
I was.
Do
you get nervous? Do you get nervous about interviewing anyone?
I get excited because I know it's going to be fine because I have confidence that I will carry the conversation through a weak moment. If the other person would get tripped up,
yeah,
I can maneuver now. I have that skill set. I believe I have it.
Yeah.
So I'm excited now.
Yeah.
I was excited before, but also nervous of making a mistake.
Yeah.
I don't have that anymore.
Yeah.
That's kind of gone.
Yeah.
But I'm excited for the conversation.
Yeah.
So I speak a little bit faster than I should when I start out. And
I guess nervous isn't the right word. Excited is more like it.
And that excitement sometimes can make you a little jittery.
Yeah, definitely. But after doing it as long as we've been doing it, it's definitely a creative. It's a release. You know what I mean? It's always fun to be able to just sit down and just talk to people.
I feel great when the shows are done. Like I'll go home tonight, and it'll take me a little while to decompress. I don't know. Do you decompress after shows? Take a little while.
Well, it definitely takes me a while. That's what I was saying. It's like I have a conversation, and I'm just like I'm riding high. I go upstairs, and I'm buzzing, and my wife knows I'm buzzing. Like a perfect example, that guy from the Pittsburgh Wildlife. Who the person you call for bats in your fucking house.
Right.
I was so pleasantly. I didn't have any expectations of that, but I was so far exceeded my expectations.
Yeah, I see how exciting that is.
I came in and I was just like, this is insane. I'm talking to this dude, and like, I what more could you ever want to just be able to pick someone's brain like that? And it just makes me buzz, and my wife can recognize it, and it takes me a while to just, I'll lay in bed after that because I usually am done recording at night. And I'm just sitting there thinking like, God, that was such a great conversation.
Because that's a lot. Conversation is such a lost art. People just take that for granted, and some people don't even know what that means anymore.
I agree with that.
It's crazy.
We're lucky.
We are lucky. Let's do it some more, and I'm going to have you back on this panel show. You're game, right?
I'd love to be down with that. I'd love to. Hit me up whenever. I'll be back whenever you need.
And tell everybody how to reach you, buddy.
I'll call you right back across the board. I run a podcast in the city, similar to Eric's. I talk to interesting people about what they do and how they got to that point in life. If you like hearing about cool people doing cool shit, check it out. You can find me on Instagram at I'll Call You Right Back. And in the link in that bio, it has tabs to, find me anywhere. I'll call you right back across the board. But I appreciate you having me on.
Dude. Yeah, my pleasure. We're going to do it again.
Yes, sir.
Just keep doing your thing, man.
You too.
Good things ahead.
Yes, sir.
All right, friends, we're out.
Out. Thank you.
Peace.
Hello, you're listening to the Eric McKenna Project.